You know, I love that song because it talks about the humanness. We are human. How many human beings do we have in the room? We come together and we celebrate the light. We celebrate the Christ, the Buddha nature, the magnificence of our very soul, the spiritual reality. But it's also important that we also recognize the human part of us, the sinner and the saint. You know, not sinner the way it maybe was defined in your upbringing, but just the recognition that we are human beings and we make mistakes, we fall down, we screw up, and we get back up again. Yes? And I love being part of a community where we can have the awareness that we're all of the above. One is not better than the other. We're not in an earth skin and an earth experience by accident, but it's a divine appointment. We are here to bring something, to live our humanity fully and completely with courage and with strength, because if you notice, walking the earthly journey isn't always easy. Have you noticed that? Yeah, I've noticed. Maybe I'm the only one who's falling down. But the reality is, it is important that we recognize that it takes a great deal from us, a great deal of courage. Now, the average age here is my demographic. You probably recognize the old adage that March comes in like a lion and goes out like a lamb. I don't know if you were here. Sometimes it's the other way around, but let me tell you, what was going on in my backyard the other day was a lion was roaring. Sirens went off, there were tornado warnings and power, and my trees were going like this in the backyard. It came in like a lion. I'm hoping that it means that today is a symbol that we're moving into lambness, yes? But today is the first of a two-part series based loosely on that adage, in like a lion and out like a lamb. Today we begin like a lion. Let me hear your roar. I'm a little scared now. Living life more courageously. How would life be? How many people in this room would love to live life with a little bit more bravery and boldness and courage, and to make the world a better place through your willingness to be fully and completely you? Yes? Now that doesn't sound as good as the roar. How many would like to live more boldly, courageously, and with strength and power? Yes? Now we're on board. We got it. French-Cuban author Anais Nin once said this. Let's put the next slide up there. 3, 2, no. There it is. Together. Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. See, the life that we're living, the magnificence of our life or the narrowness of our life is going to depend on the courage and the boldness and the bravery we're bringing to the table, to the moment, to the relationship, to the earth. Putting those in my words, I would say that the life we are experiencing today, good, bad, or otherwise, is a direct reflection of our desire and our ability to live life wide open. And I invite you to repeat after me. I live life wide open. And to examine any part of you that goes, I'm a phony when I say that. I live life wide open. Is there another part of me that can be shown to the world? And where have I made apology for that part of me? Where have I said it's not safe to let the fullness of my being be shown? One of the most persistent calls of the human hero's heart is to find the courage needed to help our life expand in the most glorious ways. And that's always easy, isn't it? Is it really? Is it easy? There's nothing easy about it. If you're looking for the easy path, you've come to the wrong church today. There's an easy path where you don't have to live wide open. You can just live by somebody else's rules and then forever let the part of God expressing at the point of view die, because it's just, I have to be too bold and too brave. So we challenge you to be the magnificent soul that God would have you be, to ask the questions, how do I create the extraordinary in the midst of the ordinary? How do I bring the extraordinary into the ordinary life? How do I live boldly and courageously, wide open like the light of God that I am? Say with me, I am the light of God. And then ask that question that Janice Stanfield asks in her song, what would I do if I were brave? What would I do if I were brave? And a question that we ask collectively of our congregation, this gathering, is what would we do? What would we as a collective do if we were brave? What could we achieve? What would be possible if we were brave enough, as all the great masters and teachers did, to live life wide open? And I want to begin by, first of all, acknowledging that nobody would be in this room. Not one person would be in this room if you didn't have a series of moments in your life where you overcame, where you decided to pick yourself up off the ground and try again, where you didn't overcome some obstacle, some mistake, some betrayal, some moment in your life where you didn't say, there's more of me here than this circumstance, so I will get back up again. So pat yourself on the back. Take your hand and pat yourself on the back. We should be proud of that. We should recognize the parts of ourselves that were accessed when life was down, when it was dark, and we found something deeper inside of ourselves. That's a hero's journey. That's a hero's heart. That's a hero's job. That succession of moments, job well done. And it's important to recognize today that those long string of moments they weren't defined by quantum leaps across chasms of insurmountable obstacles. They weren't necessarily insurmountable obstacles or impenetrable problems or an army of adversaries. Extraordinary courage is mostly found in often overlooked moments of day-to-day living, of life. The overcoming that's happening every day when nobody is paying attention. The overcoming moments of just being a human being, trying to make your circle of influence a little bit better. You see, lions don't often get applause. And here's the best thing. Lions don't need applause. Lions don't live on applause. Lions live on being a lion. Yes? In her book, The Bold Life, author Tess Marshall writes this. Let's go ahead and read this together. A bold life is when a person does what it takes to speak their truth, walk their walk, and use their gifts and talents with joy, passion, and meaning. How many people make every effort possible to walk the talk, to share your truth without apology, to share your truth without excuse, but to walk your walk and use the gifts and the talents that you have been given to simply make the world a better place through joy and through passion? I want to submit something to you. Clark Kent was no less courageous than Superman. I used to watch, how old I am, the Superman series, and Clark Kent was no less courageous than Superman. He wasn't flying around through the air. He wasn't lifting trains off of the track. But what he was doing was consistently being kind. He was consistently speaking up for the marginalized and the downtrodden. He was always there as a champion of everybody that was around him. He consistently encouraged others. Consistency is a part of the spiritual hero's journey, yes? In fact, I invite you to say that consistency is a part of the hero's journey. Together, consistency is a... I have two stepsons I want to introduce you to. One of them you've met before. His name is Casey. Casey was one of the first ones that got on a plane and said, I'm going to Ukraine. And I'm going to go on the border of Poland, and I'm going to get families across that border. I'm going to bring food, I'm going to bring supplies, and I'm going to be present. Casey was very public about his heroic deeds. He's the first person to rush into a burning fire, and he's done that, a burning house, and he's the first person, I don't know if it's because he likes to fight or if he really wants to make peace, but he's the first one to jump into the middle of a fight and try and stop it. Very public acts of bravery and courage that I'm very proud of Casey. But I want to introduce you to Casey's brother, Lance, another stepson that I have. Lance is not going to fly to Ukraine and take people across the border. Lance is not going to jump into the middle of a fight or into the middle of a burning building. Lance is the one who takes every moment of his very ordinary existence and he encourages people when nobody's looking. He uplifts people when nobody's paying attention. He supports his family and anybody who is associated with his family in tremendous ways. He's the first one to offer financial support to those that are in need. Nobody's watching. He doesn't need applause. He's a lion, though. He's the first to call his mother and check in, even when it is inconvenient. You see, Casey, we may get a call on his mother's birthday. He's too busy saving the world. But Lance is the first one to reach out, even when it's not convenient, and say, how you doing, Mom? Are you okay? What do you need? That's a hero to me, no less than Casey. He is the first one to offer his substantial means. He is in the top 10% of money makers in the world. But he doesn't live that way, and he doesn't brag about it. But when there's somebody in need or an organization that needs help, he's the first one to reach into his wallet and say, I'm there. Nobody's putting his check on the news like they are Casey, who made the news several times. Yet Lance is a hero. He does all of this without applause or praise for his heroic deeds. He just does it. What was it, Nike? Just do it. Say that with me. Just do it. Sometimes the most heroic things are done when nobody is watching, and the extraordinary right in the midst of the ordinary. Without scaling tall buildings in a single bound, courage comes in many forms, and no one form of courage is more important or necessary than another. It is the day-to-day acts that lift the water in the harbor for the human race and for the earth. In both Casey and Lance, as well as the courageous soul that is housed in your skin, that is housed in your life. There are many expressions and manifestations of courage. Today I want to offer you my list. Sometimes the unnoticed ways that courage shows up. Here's my list. Let's go ahead and put the list up there. Number 1, let's read it. Courage isn't afraid to believe the unimaginable. This is the faculty of imagination as taught by Charles Fillmore, our founder. The imagination, the ability to see a vision and to watch it manifest. The world will tell them that they can't do it. The world will tell the lions, you can't do it, it's impossible. And the lion says, watch me. Watch me. I'm going to go ahead and do it anyway. This church is a manifestation of believers who did not accept the impossible, who did not accept the limits of financial resources, did not accept the limits of people and volunteers and the supplies and the resources to do it. They just did it. This church is a symbol of lions, lion-hearted people. When lions roar, God makes a way out of no way. When lions roar, God makes a way out of no way. Say that with me. When lions roar, God makes a way out of no way. Number 2, together, courage isn't afraid to be patient. We think that courage is about rushing in, immediately jumping on the fire, doing whatever it takes, but sometimes the most patient are the most courageous. When things go south or change course, giving up is often the easiest way out. It didn't happen when it was supposed to. I have people in this community who prayed for a healing, who prayed for a change or a shift or a relationship for months and months and months until it showed up in their field. And that took courageous patience. I have other people who prayed twice, meditated twice for the healing, for the perfect relationship, the perfect bank account, and said, see, it doesn't work. Patience takes a lion's heart. Patience. You ever watch a lion stalk its prey? Sometimes we think Carol looks like the lion that's jumping and attacking. But I'm telling you that sometimes quitting is a coward's way out, and sometimes jumping is the fool's way out, and sometimes patience to stay the course, work the program, work the system is exactly what is needed for the lion to roar. I look at some of the outreach ministries here at Unity North that required incredible patience, and many people don't know the backstory. It took 9 months of talking to Family Promise, 9 months of talking to the staff and the board here at Unity to figure out how in the world we could house 4 families. How do we do that? And 9 months later, Family Promise is one of the most successful ministries, and we are a partner with 13 other congregations that are watching lives be changed. The volunteers for Family Promise don't get a lot of applause. They just do the work. But as a minister, I watch and I notice. I see Jason Haley. Jason Haley sitting there and his wife, Rosie. Nobody's applauding or standing on a podium saying, way to go, guys, when they're moving beds. They're making beds. They're setting it up. Family Promise is here because a lion had patience. Also, our weekly food drive. This isn't possible. How in the world can we do this? 900 people being served food, it's not possible. Yet we kept diligent and patient to the vision that was there, and we invested in that vision, and now we're serving 200 to 300 families that would not eat without the food that we provide here today. Jeannie Ruiz is a lion who has the patience to come every single week with her wonderful volunteers. Alice is somewhere, Jim, they're in the room somewhere. Every single week they are here, patiently waiting for the food truck to show up so that somebody's life can be made better. That takes a lion heart. That takes courage. Number 3, let's read it together. Courage isn't afraid to say no. Sometimes we think that heroes are all about saying yes. Mine to do, mine to do, mine to do. Sometimes it's about saying no. As I look at my grandchildren, the most successful of my grandchildren were the ones that grew up in Lance's house, the ordinary man. Because Lance knew how to say no. All my grandchildren are amazing and wonderful, and there's 15 of them. 3 of them have risen to become successful. Their life is full and rich and beautiful. And if I were to pick one thing about why they're more successful than the other grandkids, and don't repeat that I'm saying this, it's because Dad and Mom knew how to say no. And other Mom and Dad went yes to everything. Yes, yes. Sometimes it takes a great deal of courage to say no to something that really shouldn't happen on your watch. An experience that should not happen on your watch. Sometimes no takes all the boldness and strength that you've got within you to say, no, this isn't going to happen here on my watch. It's not safe, it's not right, it's not ethical, it's not moral. No. That takes a lion's heart. Now, I'm proud of all my grandkids, but boy, I sure wish I made as much money as those 3 grandkids who were told no. They're very successful. Number 4, let's read it together. Courage isn't afraid to take an unpopular stand. Anybody ever stand alone when you were the lone voice? And everybody, I've been in those moments where it's like we all agree, let's get this done, let's get this done. And there's a line of us and you go, yes, let's get it done. And then everybody else takes a step back. That's a critical crossroads moment. Do I have the guts and the courage to be behind my vision and my conviction? Will I sweat it out even when the world is attacking me? And where'd you all go? Where'd you all go? I've been in that scenario a number of times, and my whole life I lived scared of that scenario. I was the one doing this. Go ahead, you go first. You go first. I'm not afraid to do that anymore. And I'm grateful for the people who challenged me to be a lion and to not play small. Standing alone when so many other voices is one of the most uncomfortable things that any of us can do. Yet with any study of history, it was the courageous lion's voice that stood alone and changed the face of the planet and the world. At UNA, there were 2 things, and I will take credit where credit is due. I'm not afraid or ashamed. I'm not proud about it. I'm proud of it, but I'm not prideful about it. I had to push a lot of people, and to stand like a lone voice. I believe we can have a labyrinth here at Unity North. I believe this is possible. Where'd you all go? No, we don't have the space. We don't have the time. We don't have the ability to do it. We don't have the resources. How are we going to do it? And Dan, Glenn, and I went to the back and we started digging. And we cleared with a lot of sweat when we were the lone voice. We have a labyrinth today that is a cornerstone of this ministry. A beautiful spot in our back parking lot. If you don't know about it, go back there and look at it. It is holy, it is sacred, and I'm grateful for the lions that maintain that labyrinth. But it took a lot of push and shove and standing alone. The other thing is an organic garden. There were 3 of us at the beginning, so I think this is possible. I think we can have an organic garden where we share vegetables with the world and with each other and with the congregation. All it was a bunch of thorny bushes and a lot of trash back there in the back parking lot. You're a fool. Can't do that. Not possible. Not going to happen. All right, let's sweat it out. I think it's possible. Week after week, let's go out and let's start tearing the vines out. What are you doing? You can't do that. There's not enough property back there. I invite you to go back and look at our organic garden that stands to today. Don Simon, Lenore Bush, and myself. Let's get her done. And we got it done. Now it's one of the most successful things that we do on this property. So if you're part of the organic ministry, raise your hand. That organic garden, if you're in the room, thank you. Thank you, thank you. If you're part of the labyrinth, keep your hand up. If you're part of the labyrinth ministry, thank you. You are lions that did not believe in the impossible. Yes? Number 5, courage isn't afraid. Let's go and read it together. Courage isn't afraid to ask for help. Oh my gosh, that's been labeled as weak for so long. Have you noticed that? You got to ask for help, you're weak. You know what? I get a lot of credit for where UNA stands today. I get to come up here and I get applause and I get attaboy, way to go, you're doing great things. I'm very public. But let me tell you, it wasn't my ability or my talent. It wasn't my ability to sing a song or to speak or to do anything behind the scenes that got the church where it is today. It was my ability to say, I need help. I don't know how to do this. When I took over this job, and I don't know how many years ago it was, I was a deer in the headlights, and I had no idea how to do it. And we stand today on the backs of people who were willing when the minister said, help, help. I don't have any idea how to run a church. I don't have any idea how to run a business. And I remember a moment where the lion stood with me, knowing that I was absolutely shaking in my boots. His name is Ted Worrell. He's sitting right over there. He was a lion and said, let me introduce you to a balance sheet. Let me introduce you to what it takes to run a successful business. Oh, and by the way, the lion told me no a number of times. But the reality is I stand on the backs of people who were willing to put their hand out when I had the guts and the courage of a lion to say, help me. I don't know how to do this. And so I mark every board member, every staff member, every volunteer that ever put their hand out when the leadership of this church says we don't know how to do this. And we didn't. Some say we still don't know how to do it. But the reality is we learned because we were willing to ask for help. It is a sign of strength. It is not a sign of weakness. Yes? It takes courage to humbly say, can you help me? Number 6, let's read it together. Courage isn't afraid to show genuine emotion. One of the things I'm most proud about this community is that we can live transparently. It's okay to cry. It's okay to hurt. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset because it all has something to teach us. I remember the moment that somebody introduced me to the human man named Jesus. My whole life I was talking about the Christ, the spiritual reality, this unattainable reality, this light of the world, and I was told I was a worm of the dust. We didn't acknowledge the humanness as part of the journey. And we can spend a lot of time talking about our Christ, Edie the Christ, Nancy the Christ, yes, the Christ, the beautiful light, but the reality is we're human beings too. Jesus got angry. Jesus was afraid. Jesus cried. Jesus got ticked off. Jesus got frustrated. And when I met that man, it was like, maybe I could do it. Jesus was a lion because he expressed his emotion. Honestly, people tried to write that emotion out of the books, but look at the books that were written out. He was a real human being who walked the earth. He was a lion, and we have lions here that are not apologizing for how they feel. That I can come up here, and when I say I need help, I don't know how to do it, and I can cry, and it makes us stronger. The emotion of a lion makes us all stronger. It makes the pride stronger. It makes the individual stronger, and the example of being willing to do that makes the world a stronger place. We don't have to hide here. And on that note, I want to number 7. I'm going to invite Tempe to come up. Let's read it together. Courage isn't afraid to let its light shine. Many of you know that I have a grandson named Jaden. Jaden is a transgender man who is not welcome in probably every other church but one. Thank God for Pilgrimage down the street from us. We're a safe haven here on Sandy Plains because he would be welcome there. Jaden went to several different churches and was told he had to be different, had to change who he was, couldn't be accepted in those churches. Now, Jaden's got a problem with religion because of those experiences, but Jaden is here every Christmas Eve and every Easter because Jaden is accepted here. Jaden can show up as his light, the way he knows his light to be, without the threat of being condemned or put down or needing to be changed.